Okay, good morning everyone. Thank you for coming to my talk this morning. My name's Chris, and as Laura said, I work on the Marketplace team here at Atlassian, and one of my responsibilities, along with my colleague Jamie, is the approval of new add-ons that come into the Marketplace. We also have a robot Guarddog that helps us with this, which I'll introduce to you later on. But today's talk, I want to talk to you about Marketplace listings in general and how you can make yours a success. So let's run through what we're going to talk about. So first of all, I'm going to give you some brief facts about the Marketplace itself and why you should list. Then we're going to talk about what makes up a listing, give some good examples and some bad examples, and then break down the key elements of what makes up a listing. Then we'll briefly run through the listing creation process, where I'll highlight some of the main areas where confusion lies or where vendors seem to slip up, so we can run over that smoothly. Then we're going to talk about the approval criteria from our point of view, from the people that are actually approving it behind the scenes, to let you know what we're looking for and what we're not looking for. Then I'll briefly introduce how we're trying to improve this process for us, but more importantly for you guys as well. And then we'll finish up with some questions and hopefully some answers. Okay, so first, why list? So the first figure I want to give you is 43%. And 43% relates to the percentage of Atlassian customers that have installed an add-on on their instance. The second number is 250 million, and 250 million is the total amount of sales the Marketplace has had since its inception. So we can see that this is a healthy platform and it's growing. So what's in a listing? Let's break it down. Would you buy this car? Probably not, but let's take it a step back. Would you even take it for a test run? Would you go and ask more information about it? Would you go and read some more details on what the specs of it are? Also unlikely. Now, this car could have a V8 engine under the hood. It could be the smoothest, fastest ride you've ever had, but you're never going to find out just because of the way it looks. So a much nicer example, with a great stereotype there for you as well. Jolly good. Okay, so what makes a good listing? Let's have a look at some examples. So first of all, here's a random good example from the Marketplace, and we can see there is lots of information there. It's colorful. You've got a video there as well. So it actually invites you to find out more information about it. Okay, and if you move down as well, even more information is present. So you can see you have the aesthetic parts at the top that catch your eye, and then you can move down once you're more interested to the more details. Let's look at a bad example. Sorry, a terrible example even. And you can see here, although it's got a cute picture of a kitten, very nice, it's completely irrelevant. We don't know what it does. Again, the same analogy as the car. It could be a game-changing software, but unlikely. But you just don't know because you can't see anything about it. So let's go back to the good example and break that down and see what the key elements are. So to begin with, we have the title. And you can see here there's some keywords there, test management, and also a good practice is to have the product title in there. So if you were to go and search in a search browser, for example, for Jira test management, it's likely that you would get this as a hit. Moving down, we have the tagline, which is a short, succinct summary with keywords in there again that gives you a good brief overview of what the add-on does. Moving to the right, we have what we call the hero image or video. You can have a YouTube video linked to this. A lot of vendors have professionally made ones that you can add in. And then moving down further, we have the highlights section, where we have 3 screenshots with succinct summaries and titles that basically highlight some of the key features of the add-on. And then moving down further, we can see the more detailed section. This is the meat of the listing. This is where you can put the most information in there. And then moving across, we can see the media section as well, which allows you to add more screenshots. And when it's clicked on, it opens up in a carousel type format that customers can walk through. And then we have some more resources and links down there that we add in during the creation process. So let's run through that creation process very quickly. Okay, so once you navigate to the Marketplace, marketplace.atlassian.com, you've created your vendor account. in the top right corner, you can see there is a drop-down menu on your avatar, and the option to create an add-on is there. So once you select that, it takes you to the first page in the process. Now, the first thing you notice is there are 3 options here. So there are 3 different types of listings you can create. The first one being actually uploading an artifact to the marketplace. So if you've got a jar, an OBR, or a workflow file, a JWB file, you can upload that. And this is for server add-ons where the actual artifact is hosted in the marketplace and is then downloaded and installed on the Atlassian application. So once you've uploaded your artifact, we can see there that the add-on key is pulled in. Now the add-on key is the unique identifier for each add-on, and it's what separates it from all the other ones. So you can see that's actually held in the configuration file and pulled in. And moving down, we can see version and build number. Now these are 2 very important aspects of the listing process. So I want to talk a little bit about that first. So the version number, as you can imagine, is what tells you what version of each release you have. And the general format we recommend and what we use at Atlassian is the 3-digit system there with major, minor, and micro. And then moving across to the build number, which is probably more important in this process, because the build number is actually what determines the ordering of your add-ons on the page. So, for example, if you were to release a version 1.0 with a build number of 10, then you were to release version 2.0 with a build number of 2, it would actually appear further down the list and would appear as an older add-on because of the build number. So it's very important to make sure you get the latest version has a higher build number as well. And one of the formats that we use and what we recommend is similar to the version number, but instead of dots, you have the zeros. So for example, version 1.1.1 would be 1.0.0.1.0.0.1.0.0. So that's a very important aspect to remember, because it just causes more headaches down the line having to change and release new versions. Okay, so the next option is actually providing a URL to where you host your own code, and this is for Connect add-ons. So you will, if you hit the Enter URL button, it will bring up the option for you to enter your URL, which will point to your descriptor, and then that will then again populate the page. You can see the add-on key is pulled in again, which is stored in the descriptor. You'll notice the version, the build number aren't stored for this type of listing, and that's because the marketplace does its own kind of versioning instead of you having to do that for you. So it will automatically iterate and add the version numbers up. And again, you get the chance to alter your name there. And then the third option is if your add-on isn't directly installable. And what this means is if you have your own platform, CI platform or test management platform that integrates with an Atlassian product, without there actually being anything installed on Atlassian side, this is the option you'll pick. And so you can see with this one you can actually specify the add-on key because there isn't a configuration file to be pulled from. And again, you can see the version and the build number following the same recommendations as before. And the main difference for this type of listing is there is an extra option called add-on file location. And what this is for your external piece of software that integrates with it, you would have a link to instructions specifically on how to set up or calibrate that. Or the other option is actually providing a binary URL, a link to someone that you can download. So if there's a desktop client or a browser extension that you need in order to successfully sync these up. Okay, and at the bottom of this page, which overlaps all 3 options, we have the compatibility. And this is, as you can imagine, where you would specify what versions of the Atlassian application your add-on is compatible with. And there's also an option there, if you are compatible with Service Desk, you can click that and the Service Desk icon will appear on the front of the listing. Okay, so after you've gone through that, then you get to the Getting Started page. And for this example, we're going to go with the first option I spoke about, where you upload an artifact to the marketplace. And you can see there we have the artifact at the top. And the next thing you'll notice is the payment model. And the payment model is another area where we get a lot of issues around. And so if you want to actually change the payment model, you need to release a new version. So if you want to go from a paid version to a free version, or a free version to a paid version, you need to release a new version in order to do that. And the reason behind that is because there are licensing parameters stored in the configuration file that tell the marketplace that this is paid or it isn't paid. And so in order for you to change the model, a new version has to be released where these parameters are either removed or added in. So that's an important point to remember. The next thing you'll notice is the data center option. And again, this is pulled from the configuration file. So if it's in the actual config, it will then say compatible, and it would add an icon to the front of the listing to let everyone know this is data center compatible. Okay, so next page is About Add-On, the About Add-On screen. And what you can see is you can add in a logo there. Also, you get another chance to change the name of the add-on. And then you can also see the tagline, which I spoke about when I was breaking down the example. And that appears on to the left of the video or image that you can see there. And then moving down, we have something called the summary field. Now, the summary field is not actually what appears in the marketplace itself. This appears in what we call the UPM, or Universal Plugin Manager. And UPM is essentially a window into the marketplace. It's a built-in version within each Atlassian application. And so the summary is what appears in there as an advertisement for that add-on. And so this enables customers to, from within their Atlassian application, install add-ons from the marketplace without actually navigating to it. They can also link to the marketplace listing itself for the specific listing there, and so they can get more information about the add-on. Okay, moving down, then we have the more details section, which again was that large chunk of text at the bottom of the page on the listing. And also, just to briefly mention, there's also a field called Google Analytics ID at the bottom there, and that allows you to add in your Google Analytics ID so you can track traffic on your page back in Google Analytics. Okay, so next page is actually where you design the layout of your listing. And the first one we see there is basic. Now, basic is, as you can remember, that great example with the kitten that we saw earlier. And what we predominantly envision this to be used for is for if you have a private add-on that you're still testing, which you don't want it to be public yet. So you don't want to have to go through all the hassle of putting all your content and your marketing in there until the end. So you can leave it in a private state and perform your tests on it. And just to remind you one more time what that looked like, just so it's ingrained in your mind, we have the great example again. And this is the reaction when that comes in. Okay, so next example is the highlight section. And if you remember, the highlight section was the 3 images highlighting specific functionality from within of the add-on on the listing. And we can see an example of that here. And if we scroll down, you can see the tagline above we stretched across, and then you've got the 3 highlight images with succinct summaries about each one. And it's another great way to get information across to your customers. And when we get one of these in, the team is pretty satisfied, yeah, quite happy about that. The captain approves. So then the next one is the hero image, which was the video/image that you can have on the side. And one thing to mention about this is, so you can add a YouTube video to it, but in the YouTube field, we only need the ID and not the whole URL. If the whole URL is present in there, then the video won't load. So it's just after the equal sign, there's just a string that you add in there. We can see that's where it goes on there. And then the final one is what we saw with the good example I showed you earlier, which is a combination of everything together. And this is the one that it has the opportunity to provide the most information to your customers. And we can see a good example of that here. Again, with the tagline, a good title, the video, and the highlight images, as well as some good summaries. And then when this one comes in, the reaction is usually pretty overpowering, yeah. Okay, so moving on, next we have the version page. And the first thing you'll notice on this is there is an option called beta release. And what this means is you can select the tick box there, and it will add an icon to the front of your listing just to say that this is in beta test, the beta phase, so it's still testing, there's still things we're ironing out. And you can add into the more details section, asking for feedback, add an issue tracker in there so you can get your customers to do testing and give you the feedback. We also have a field called the release date. The release date, what we use that for is if you have, for example, your own piece of software that has a release day of its own, and you want that to coincide with the release of the add-on on the marketplace, you can add in that date, and we can then coordinate through the approval process as and when we actually release this as well. And then moving down, you can see the version, the build number is actually hard-coded there as well, so you can get another chance to go back and change it if need be. Same with the compatibility. Then we have something called the product category, and this is specific to the Atlassian application that your add-on is being installed on. So if you have a Jira one or a Confluence, they'll be slightly different. And what this is used for is for actually categorizing your product on the marketplace. So it allows, there's like some filters on the side which allow customers to drill down further into which category your add-on falls into. And then at the bottom of the page, we have support information. If your add-on is a paid via Atlassian add-on, it is required to have an element of support. And so what we offer here is there are a few extra fields you can add, such as a user agreement if there is further licensing terms that you have for your add-on outside of what Atlassian offers. Also a data security statement you can add in, so if your add-on is cloud and you are hosting other customers' information, you can add that in there. An issue tracker as well, so customers can get in touch with you, and then also the option to add a forum link so you can have discussion, customers can discuss and help each other out. An example of this is community.atlassian.com, which you can set up and have your own section on there. Okay, so that's the last page. So you agree to the publisher agreement and then hit submit, and then you will be taken to the pricing page. Now the first thing you'll notice here is at the top it says this add-on is pending approval. And the pending approval phrase is actually a link to an auto-generated ticket that we've had created for you, where we will track the approval process and we can communicate with each other about how that's going. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. So as you can see, the first note says the add-on is pending approval, but it can't be approved because the vendor hasn't set pricing. And this is another thing that happens quite often. So we can go through the whole testing process and ratify that you've got all the correct documentation, and then when we go to approve it, we actually can't because the pricing hasn't been set and we don't actually have an account, like a registered account in our purchasing system. So it's vitally important that you set that so we don't have to reach out to you again and say, hey, can you set that? It's just an extra step of communication. And the actual act of setting your add-on pricing is really simple. So you can see, first of all, there's a drop-down above where the user tiers are, and what that lets you do is automatically set the percentage of what each user tier will be in comparison to the Atlassian application it's being installed with. So in this case, I've set it to 50% of the user tiers for Jira. And you can manually go in and change the values as well if you wish. And then at the bottom there, you can also see a checkbox which lets you decide whether you want Atlassian solution partners to be able to resell your add-on, giving you more access to more customers. So let's have a look at the listing that we just put together, that we went through. So you can see there the tagline, the video, the highlights, and the more detailed section, as well as the links from the creating listing process. And I don't know about you, but my mind is blown, because I'm easily excitable by these things. Okay, so let's recap that section, the most important bits. Version and build numbers. Remember, the build number is what determines the ordering of your add-on. Issue tracker and documentation. If it's a paid via Atlassian add-on, it has to have these in place. And remember to set your pricing as well. So let's talk about the approval criteria now. So behind the scenes from the people that actually approve it. So I mentioned earlier the auto-generated ticket that we create, and this is what you're going to see in our service desk. So this will be the place where if you have issues or you want to ask us questions, we can answer them here, or if we encounter bugs or have questions about how your add-on works, we'll ask them here as well. You'll notice that there is a large comment added there, and I mentioned previously we had a robot Guarddog, and this is the first sniff you're going to see of that. And what it's done here is it's automatically added in a comment letting you know about what the process is going to be like, how long it's going to take, and what you should expect from it. And also, you can see in bold there that there is another request that we make, and that is if your add-on integrates with third-party software, if you could provide us with a test account or access to a test instance, so we can go through the approval process of how to configure them. That saves a lot of time as well of us reaching out to you and asking you to provide that with us. So we get the Guarddog to ask that straight up. So let's look at some of the reasons for automatic rejections. So the main one that we see is listing lacking details, and that again, the kitten listing that we saw before. And this actually, a human eye generally doesn't even get to see this because it's automatically rejected by the Guarddog that we have. So it comes in through the front gate and it gets chased straight back out again while with the dog barking at it all the way back out. And so just to give you a rough idea, so 22% since January of all the rejections have been because of listing lacking details, and they've come straight in and gone straight back out without us even looking at them. So that's done automatically. The next one is infringement of Atlassian trademark. Now, we have branding guidelines that need to be adhered to. So, for example, you can't use our logo as your logo on a listing. And this also goes as far as the product names. So, to give you some examples, Jira's best add-on. What do we think? Do we think that's going to be approved or rejected? Correct, rejected. And the reason for that is you can't have Atlassian's product name at the beginning of the title. You can have it prepended, so best add-on for Jira would be fine. The next one, add-on for Jira. Good, bad? What do we think? Correct, bad. So, and that's because Jira, in this instance, has to be in all capitals. So if you were to do add-on for Jira, that would be fine. The same is true for Confluence, Bamboo. So Confluence has to begin with a capital C, Bamboo with a capital B. Okay. Next one is no documentation or support platform. And I'm going to give you a bit of a pedantic metaphor about why documentation is important. But imagine, if you will, a prehistoric man. He's in the cave. He's going to go out foraging, hunting to get food. So he goes out, and on his epic journey, he encounters a lion. And inevitably, a conflict ensues. He barely manages to escape, just about with his life. He's cut, he's bruised, and he drags himself back to the cave. But what he does now, this is the most important aspect. It's one of the reasons why the human species has become the most dominant species on the planet. He draws on the wall a picture of a lion as a warning to all the other people that this is a dangerous animal and to stay away from it. And that was a bit of an exaggerated metaphor compared with technical documentation, I know, but it still serves the same basis. If you educate people and tell people how to not make the same mistakes again, they're generally not going to. And the same with the support platform. If you give customers the opportunity to get in touch with you and tell you about issues, you can then go ahead and create documentation to ensure that other customers don't make the same mistake again. So it's a cyclical cycle. And let's discuss. Let me tell you about the areas of documentation that we see in good ones. Okay, so first of all, a list of add-on prerequisites. So if you have, if you need, for example, in Jira to have a project already created with a specific name or custom field in place in order for your add-on to work, let the customers know about this so it makes it easier for them in the long run. An overview of the add-ons functions. So the marketplace listing is a great place to start, but it is limited in terms of the amount of information you can have on there. If you can have a whole website dedicated to what your add-on can do, then you can get far more information across. An installation guide. This is pivotal. If a customer can't install your add-on, then generally they're going to move on to someone else that provides where it's easier. This is the first key component of actually being able to use it in the trial process. Next, the administrator's guide. Someone has to administer this. Someone has to keep it running and ticking over. So you need to provide them with the information on how to do that. And then lastly, but not leastly, is the user guide. So this is for the everyday users that are going to actually be needing to work with your add-on each day. So they need to have access to information about how they can go about doing this. And then the final one, inappropriate or offensive content, which is pretty self-explanatory there. And one last graph there to break it down for you. So we can see that the 57% of all rejections since the inception of the marketplace have been because of listing lacking details. And 23% are bugs during testing, which is what we would generally expect to see, whereby you've done your testing, you release it to us, and then we test it again from an Atlassian point of view and notice maybe some small nuances, and then we can communicate that with you through the approval process. So it's like an extra layer of testing that you get on your add-on. So to recap that section again, listing lacking details. I keep banging the drum about it, but it is a reoccurring issue. Issue tracker and documentation. No one wants to get eaten by a lion, so remember that aspect of it. And then trademark infringements. Remember the ordering of the words and also the casing. So how are we trying to improve this for you guys? How are we trying to make this process simpler and quicker? So this is a snapshot of the queue on a general day. We usually have around 20 in the queue, and each one to go through the approval process takes between 1 and 3 hours. So you can see it can add up to be a lot of work. So what are the things we've put in place that we're trying to reduce the time it takes? So I mentioned the Guarddog a couple of times, and what that is it's an app that we created, a web app, a Flask Python application that essentially, when a new listing comes in, a ticket's created, and what it'll do, it will examine the listing itself for any specific requirements that are missing. And some examples of what you'll see when you'll see this in action are the comment that we saw earlier, where it's telling you what the process is all about, and also requesting access to a test account if required. We've also got the listing lacking details, automatic rejection, and what Plugin Checker will do is it will add a comment to the page and tell you the reason why it's been rejected, as well as links to how you can rectify this and branding guidelines and this sort of thing. Another automatic rejection we have is identical highlighting images, and they were the 3 images that we saw before highlighting specific features of your add-on. And so what Plugin Checker will do, it checks to see if those 3 images are identical, and if it is, it will reject the listing. And this is because these are really key components for getting information across to your customers. They're great visual aids, and if you have 3 of the same, it's a wasted opportunity there for getting across information to your customers. Another thing we rolled out recently was, this is something that's added in a private comment for our side alone, but what we do is we do a check to see whether there are any other add-ons that have got similar names as yours already on the marketplace. So I think the threshold, the algorithm is set to something like 80% at the moment. So if there's an 80% likeness, it will then add a comment and say to us, hey guys, we think these add-ons might have similar names. Check it out and let the vendor know. And the reason we do this is for 2 reasons. First one is to not cause confusion for customers, because if you have a unique name, it's much more likely that customers are going to come across it as opposed to multiple ones with the same name. And also to ensure that there isn't any infringement of other vendors' property rights. And another feature that we're currently in the process of rolling out is, I remember I spoke about the trademark infringements. So previously it was an automatic rejection if the casing was low or the ordering of the words was wrong. So what we have done is we've put in, we're in the process of rolling out a feature that actually automatically changes it for you, and then it posts a comment on the ticket just to tell you that, so the listing isn't rejected straight away. So yeah, thank you for listening, and we'll have some questions, and I'll hopefully give you some answers.